Normally with horror, what scares us is the unknown entity that slowly gets closer. But there's something truly unnerving about someone that just keeps their distance, continuously watching, repeating the same movements over and over again. That was my original intro to the episode. When I thought I knew what it was about, I thought it was going to be like a little horror tale that was going to focus on Ruby, a Dr. Light episode, which in ways it was, but also, I don't even know how to begin to review this episode. I'm baffled. So the Doctor and Ruby land in Wales, and the Doctor accidentally breaks the fairy circle. And from that point on, the Doctor disappears because, I don't know, and Ruby is constantly followed by this old, mysterious woman who stays 73 yards away. Now, of course, we find out this woman isn't older Ruby. I must give myself a pat on the back for this part because I kind of predicted that from the start. I was like, oh, it's an old white lady. That's probably Ruby. The episode feels really disconnected from when Ruby is in that little Welsh village for that little part, and then from when it starts jumping in time, we go forward 1 year, 10 years, 40 years, however many years, and you're kind of just like, what are we doing here? I actually really liked the setting of the village. You know, it was like less characters, felt really contained in that pub, the dull colours just surrounding the whole thing. We had this eerie atmosphere that I felt really fit what the episode was going for. I liked the building of tension it was having with the people within the pub. Even when Ruby went back home, I was really with how it even affected her mother, and it was like, oh, everyone's leaving, that sort of thing. It felt very much like The Curse of Clyde Langer, which if you've seen Sarah Jane Adventures, you'll understand. And in ways it felt so much like that premise that Russell was like, oh, can't do the exact same thing. Let me chuck in a politician plot? It's just the more I think about the episode, the more confused I get. Because you had the ties in with Max, whatever he was called from the start. But why? Like, it started out with this really cool idea. What if Ruby was stalked by this person who just stayed 73 yards away and kept on doing these mysterious hand signals and just followed her everywhere? But apparently that wasn't enough? Because when we get to the politician part of it, it's just such a random thing. Oh, this dude in the future is gonna launch nuclear missiles all over the place because independence. What? And now that time's been reversed. Is that still going to happen? Did we even change anything? Was old Ruby speaking to him the main goal? Did old Ruby say something different to him that causes what she said there to be permanent? But everything else reverts back? I'm baffled. The whole premise itself, the idea of it, I really latched onto. I actually think the episode handled the horror genre way better than it might have did in some like Space Babies, which I know wasn't horror. But with the way they presented the creature in Space Babies, I felt like, oh wow, this is really taken away from the threat. But they really made the mysterious old woman come across as unnatural. Like, we never heard her say anything, but you really got the impact. Which is also down to the surrounding cast and the way they would react to her and everything. The ending as well was actually terrifying. Like, it was genuinely scary. The lights going in and out, the woman turning her back to Ruby. It was great. I just don't get anything else that happened. It's a shame that when I think about it, that's all the good I can really come up with. It had strong performances and it had a real great eerie atmosphere and feeling going for it for the first 10 minutes and the last 2. But I'm just left with so many questions. Like, why wasn't Ruby more concerned of the Doctor just disappearing out thin air? I feel like if the person you've been traveling with, who was an alien and all that stuff, just blinked out of existence one day, you wouldn't just be like, oh well. Like, I feel like she wasn't as concerned. Did this person take the Doctor? Is the Doctor dead? I feel like Ruby kind of just got over it and moved on with life. Especially as the years went by, I feel like you would go back to that spot and seeing that the TARDIS is still there, and knowing the Doctor and how they always like to move about and go on adventures, you'd be like, something isn't right here. And I get it's like, oh, she can't fix it. But even a scene where she's more concerned about the outcome of the events and the implications of it all. Especially as later on when Kate says, oh, yeah, there's been radio silence from the Doctor for a while. I feel like there'll be more panic there. We saw the events of what happens when the Doctor's gone and turned left. You'll feel that sort of feeling will be replicated, but it wasn't. Also, they brought Kate back for this episode, which I guess was like a logical thing. Like, oh, one of the Doctor's companions is stranded. They were getting contact with UNIT. And it was great to see her again, but I was also kind of just like, I guess that was just a cameo. There's this line from Kate where she says, when we're confronted with something that we don't understand and don't know about, we can sometimes make up our own rules and our own explanations or something along those lines. I feel like that was Russell's way of saying, take what you want from this story, it's up to you, which is an interesting way to approach a story. But I feel like the story casts such a wide net about what it could be about, what it could be symbolizing, that it also feels kind of lazy in its approach. When I feel a stronger narrative definitely could have benefited the story, but also could have had that element of, what do you take from it? What does this mean to the character? For you, what does this story mean to you? It was just too much, and so much that was left unexplained, that I feel everyone's immediate reaction to it at the moment is kind of like shrugging their shoulders and saying, I don't get it, and I don't like it. It'll be interesting to see what the reaction to this episode is in like a year or two, when people have had time to rewatch it, sit with it. This will either be seen as a masterpiece, or as that random episode that we look back on like, what was Russell thinking? Overall, it's a real shame that this episode didn't hit as much as I wanted it to. You know, when you get that sort of Dr. Light episode, you can get some real gems, real standouts, especially when it's companion focused. I feel like this was really Ruby's time to shine. This isn't to say that actress did a bad job. You know, Millie Gibson did great, as she always does. But I felt like she deserved a better story. So much missed potential, and that's one of the things I hate the most. I don't think there was bad writing majorly. I don't think there was bad performances. I don't think there was bad visuals. I think the music was great. Everything about it felt great, but there was that missed potential through the lack of pacing, the lack of story structure, all of it. It really felt like we missed out on a great Doctor Who story. I think that's what hurts the most. You made the puzzle bigger than it needed to be. But that's my review of 73 Yards. It's more of a weird review because my mind's still so jumbled about what I saw, about what I liked, what I didn't like, if I liked it, if I didn't like it, whatnot. I'm more leaning on the didn't like it side at the moment, but we'll see how time progresses. I think this is a real interesting episode to discuss and see what people's views on it are, which is why I'm really interested to know your thoughts. Did you like certain parts of it? Did you hate it? What's your understanding of this episode? What do you take from it? What was the message, the themes? Wherever it is, leave it down in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. Subscribe so you can see more videos from us, the Overall Nerds, and peace.